We have now reached that point in the 2024 college football season where you really need to start worrying about players getting injured. There's been a lot of wear and tear on a lot of different teams, and it is very important to have a good backup quarterback. Speaking of having a good backup quarterback, today I want to talk about 10 different backup quarterbacks who I think have insane or unlimited potential, and if thrown into the mix, could end up being really good or are names to know for the next couple of years. The video was pretty self-explanatory, and we're going to talk about, in my opinion, 10 of the most exciting backup quarterbacks in college football. But before we get started, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you didn't support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's get started and talk about the most insane backup quarterbacks in college football. Okay, so the first guy I want to talk about is Penn State's backup quarterback, Beau Pribula. Honestly, they might actually need Beau here at some point, as he did fill in a little bit last weekend when Drew Allar got hurt, but going back in time, Pribula has kind of been an underrated gem, and not many people really know all that much about him. According to 24/7 Sports, he was only a 3-star recruit and the number 27 quarterback in the class of 2022, and he came in alongside Drew Allar, but no one was really talking about him. But this guy was a star then. He holds both school and county records as he had 108 career touchdowns, and as a senior he threw for 2,700 yards and 33 scores. So far in his 2 years in Happy Valley, Pribula ended up throwing for 149 yards and 4 touchdowns last year, and so far this year has 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. And as we saw last week, he helped them beat Wisconsin, but in my opinion this guy sort of has the it factor and is not as mentally scared as Drew Allar is. There is something mentally wrong with Drew Allar in the sense that he just can't seem to ever win these big games, and he always seems to crack, but Pribula seems to have that winning it factor and reminds me a little bit of Trace McSorley. So next year if Allar decides to go to the NFL, I'm looking forward to Beau taking over and hopefully being a really good quarterback for Penn State. The second backup quarterback that I want to talk about is Brady Allen, as he is a backup for the Louisville Cardinals. Going back in time, Allen was a huge deal coming out of high school, as according to 24/7 Sports, he was the number 10 quarterback and the 175th best player in the class of 2022. He ended up going to Gibson Southern High School, located in Fort Branch, Indiana, which is near Evansville, and while he was there, he put up crazy numbers. He ended up passing for 4,200 yards his senior year, and that was the third most in Indiana high school football history. He was named Indiana's Mr. Football, and after 12,000 career yards, which was second in state history, he decided to go up to Purdue with Jeff Brom. Sadly though, Allen would not get a chance to play much as he completed one pass in 2022, and then would decide to follow Jeff Brom to Louisville in 2023. But Jack Plummer was the starter last year, and Tyler Shuck is currently the starter this year, and we don't know when Brady Allen's going to play, but this guy put up huge numbers in high school, has a cannon for an arm, and at 6'6", has real NFL potential, and it's really sad because I feel like he's being wasted at Louisville, and instead of playing a guy like Allen, they're playing a 6th or 7th year quarterback who isn't any good. We'll have to wait and see if Brady Allen ever gets on the field, but when he does, I know he's going to prove the world wrong and become a good quarterback. The third backup quarterback I want to talk about is Malachi Nelson. You guys probably know who he is, but going back in time, he was the number 12 overall recruit in the class of 2023 and the number 5 quarterback. He ended up going to Los Alamitos High School in California, and Malachi was a huge deal for quite some time. He was the 2022 Gatorade Player of the Year after he threw for 2,900 yards with 35 touchdowns, and this guy's been putting up big numbers since his freshman year of high school. He decided to sign to play for USC, but only completed one pass as he was a backup to both Miller Moss and Caleb Williams. This past offseason, he decided to transfer to Boise State, and while he did end up losing the starting job, he has so far completed 12 passes for 128 yards. While Malachi does kind of look like a bust right now, he still has pretty much unlimited potential, and I think he will be a good quarterback. He just needs some time, and I think he will take over as Boise's starter at some point here soon. If there's one school that's done a tremendous job of developing quarterbacks over the last few years, it is Tennessee. Going back to Hendon Hooker, he became one of the best quarterbacks in the country and ended up in the NFL. Josh Heupel ended up rescuing Joe Milton, and he ended up putting up big numbers his senior year and is also currently a rookie in the NFL. This past year, Nico Iamaleava has already torched the world as a redshirt freshman and has Tennessee in position to make the college football playoff. The guy who's probably next up in line is a kid by the name of Jake Merklinger. According to 24/7 Sports, he was the number 13 quarterback, a 4-star recruit, and the 212th best player in the class of 2024, coming out of Calvary Day, which is located in Savannah, Georgia. Merklinger put up huge numbers while he was there, as he was a 4-year starter, throwing for 145 total touchdowns in his time there, and ended up choosing to commit to Tennessee. Merklinger has not yet got on the field, but I presume that Nico will start in 2025 and Jake will take over in 2026, and if anything happens to Nico this year or next year, I think Jake will be ready to step in and will be the next guy in line for Tennessee's loaded quarterback situation. The next guy we need to talk about is Zeon Chriss. Coming out of Madison Prep Academy, Zeon Chriss was the number 74 quarterback in the class of 2022 and decided to commit to play for Louisiana. Chriss actually had a really good high school career, as a junior he had over 2,000 yards and 25 touchdowns and also ran for 16 scores on the ground. He ended up playing a little bit at Louisiana, and after throwing for 1,200 yards and 11 touchdowns in 2023, would transfer to be with Willie Fritz at Houston. While Donovan Smith was the starting quarterback going into the year, it looks like Zeon Chriss is now taking over as the full-fledged starter, as he had a touchdown tonight against Kansas State and just led them to a very big win over a ranked Wildcats team. Chriss looks like the quarterback of the future for the Cougars, and it seems like the sky could also be the limit for him. He has a lot of development still left to do, but he was a pretty insane backup who now could become the starter for the rest of the year. The next backup I want to talk about is Demond Williams Jr. Coming out of Basha High School in Chandler, Arizona, Demond Williams Jr. was one of the biggest names in the class of 2024, as he was the number 12 quarterback and the 205th best player in the class of 2024. He originally committed to Arizona and Jedd Fisch, but would later flip to Washington, where he is currently the backup to Will Rogers. But going back in time, he was an extremely good player. In total, he had over 10,000 yards and 93 touchdowns, and also ran for nearly 3,000 yards and 42 touchdowns. Demond Williams was a high school superstar, and so far this year as the backup to Will Rogers, he's thrown for 242 yards with 2 touchdowns, and has also carried the ball 25 times for 148 yards and a score. He also caught a touchdown, and with Will Rogers being out of eligibility, Demond Williams could take over next year as the starter from Washington, and it looks like the sky is the limit for him. The one thing going against him is that he's only 5'11", but Demond is a really good player, and I'm excited to see what he can do for the Huskies moving forwards. At number 8, we have a quarterback who I was super excited to watch coming out of high school, but so far has not gotten an opportunity to play. The son of the people who came up with Cole's kicking camps, J.J. Cole was a huge deal coming out of high school. According to 24/7 Sports, Cole was a 4-star recruit, the number 10 quarterback, and the 132nd best player in the class of 2023. Cole was ridiculous in high school, as during his senior year he threw for 2,000 yards and 17 touchdowns, and had a similar season in 2021 as a junior. He did really well at camps, and combining that with his rocket arm and his 6'7" frame, Cole was seen as a future college football superstar. He decided to enroll at Iowa State, and with Hunter Dekkers getting in trouble for sports gambling, he actually had an opportunity to battle for the starting position as a true freshman. Ultimately, he'd lose the job to Rocco Becht, who's now the starter for them, and so far as a backup, Cole has completed 9 of 11 passes for 23 yards, and has also ran the ball 6 times. Right now, Cole is on the sidelines, but this guy has unbelievable amounts of potential, and if he decides to transfer, I think he could be a star somewhere else. But for now, we'll have to wait and see how he can do at Iowa State, and if he ever gets on the field for the Cyclones. The next guy I want to talk about is Austin Novosad. Coming out of Dripping Springs High School, Austin Novosad has become a huge deal. According to 24/7 Sports, he was the number 11 quarterback and the 133rd overall player in the class of 2023, and Novosad had a pretty meteoric rise towards the end of it. During his time at Dripping Springs, he threw for a total of 8,983 yards with 114 touchdowns and just 18 interceptions through his 3-year starting career. Novosad was originally committed to Baylor and was a 3-star player, but he impressed so much at camps that he eventually blew up and also chose Oregon over Ohio State. Novosad arrived last year at Oregon and got an opportunity to complete 9 passes. This season, he ended up beating out Dante Moore for the backup job, and while they haven't needed him so far, Novosad looks like a guy who I think will be the starter in the future, and with Gabriel being gone, we'll see if he can beat out Dante Moore for the 2025 job. Novosad has been a big-time winner and a big-time riser, and someone I've been following, and I'm excited to see how he does. Our second to last guy we're to talk about is Gunnar Stockton. Coming out of high school, Gunnar Stockton was seen as a super recruit. According to 24/7 Sports, he was the number 7 quarterback and the 124th best player in the class of 2022, and after originally committing to South Carolina, he would eventually flip to the Georgia Bulldogs. This guy had a crazy high school career if I've ever seen one. He ended up going to Rabun County High School, and while he was there, he had 13,652 passing yards, 177 touchdowns, 4,400 rushing yards, and 77 rushing scores. Stockton was a super athlete and a super recruit, and he would arrive at Georgia in 2022. He wouldn't get an opportunity to see the field until 2023, or last year he ended up passing for 2 touchdowns, and this year he is currently the backup quarterback to Carson Beck. Carson Beck's going to head off to the NFL after this season, so we'll probably get a chance to see Gunnar Stockton play next year. and he's someone who is a lot of fun to watch and has waited his time and could be a really good quarterback for the Georgia Bulldogs. Okay, so the final guy we're going to talk about is Austin Mack from Alabama. Technically, he is the Crimson Tide's third-string quarterback, as Ty Simpson has taken that backup role, but I think Austin Mack has more potential than Simpson. Simpson's probably the better player, but coming out of Folsom High School, Austin Mack is 6'6" with a cannon of an arm, and ended up throwing for nearly 3,500 yards and 40 touchdowns as a senior. He was sort of a late riser in the class of 2024, as he eventually became the number 8 quarterback in the country and the 73rd overall prospect. He would commit to play for Kalen DeBoer in Washington, but after enrolling there, he would have to enter the transfer portal and follow DeBoer to Alabama. At 6'6" with that crazy arm, Austin Mack has all the tools to become a star quarterback, but he will still need a lot of refining and development if he ever wants to see the field, and he's more of a long-term project than a guy who I think could come in right now and dominate. For now, Ty Simpson's the better backup, but Austin Mack is the guy I decided to spotlight. So yeah, today we talked about 10 insane backup quarterbacks in college football who you probably need to know about sooner or later because they could potentially be beating your team. What do you guys think though? Who is your favorite quarterback on this list, and what other backup quarterback did I forget that I should also put in a future video? Be sure to let me know down below, leave a like if you're going to support today's video, subscribe if you're new, and check out all of the videos on the end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.